Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Be That 1% podcast. Thank you for showing up with your ears, your eyes, your hearts, wherever you are listening to this. I'm really excited to dive into the topic of today with an amazing friend of mine who I've had the pleasure of being connected with for, I think, 4-ish years now. Her name is Tori Gordon. You may recognize her. She's been on the podcast once before and dropped some amazing gems and value and just heart-centered messages that are applicable in many different industries and spaces. And for those of you who don't know who Tori is, she is a performance coach. She is a globally ranked podcaster who has had some amazing names on and has dove in deep into some of the most complex topics and really bringing simplicity to it. And she, most importantly, I think, is an explorer. She is a seeker of what is going to be helpful for people to know. And that's one of the things that I really respect about her is her willingness to throw herself into unknowns, to find what is useful and to bring back exercises, questions, stories to further help people be at their best. So, Tori, thank you for the work that you do in the community of Vegas. Thank you for the work that you do online around the world. And just really grateful to be spending this time with you right now.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
So since we've talked last, lots changed. And also not a lot has changed, in that your character is still the same, and if not stronger, your presence is more precise and powerful. And I think that's a testament to the work that you continue to do on the path that you're on. And so thank you for that. What is you have a new man in your life, and it's been really amazing watching that journey unfold. What have you noticed with relationships in general, not necessarily the ones close to you, but just you look out at the landscape of our economy, our society, America. What do you see with relationships?
Yeah. They are essential to life.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in relationship to everything and everyone to some degree, from the macro to the micro, our cells and atoms are in relationship to each other, to, our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to food, our relationship to social media, our relationship to money, and our relationship to other people, our families, our colleagues, our friends, and partners. And so it's, an inescapable part of life is what I've learned, and it's, I think part of the reason that we're here is to learn how to be in right relationship with life and with ourselves and with the planet. And so for me, relationships are the fertile ground for us to do a lot of learning, a lot of learning, because not all of us have been given great examples or frameworks for how to be in right relationship with our own bodies, much less with other people, or to a greater cosmic force that has allowed us all to be here.
Yeah.
And so I think relationship has been one of the things that I've asked the most questions about in my life, about why am I here? What's the point of all of this? And when you start to ask the question, who am I and why am I here and what's the purpose, you're essentially asking a question about relationships and your relationship to life itself. And so when I look out at the world and I see kind of the state of it, whether I'm looking at, culturally or what's happening here in the US or across the globe, or even in our little, like my friend group and my community, I see a lot of people struggling, with relationship and a lot of, there's a lot of conflict and a lot of contrast and a lot of division between people. And so in that, there's a huge opportunity for healing and repair and resolution and coming back to wholeness and unity of what makes us more similar than different.
Yeah.
what are the common threads that make us all human?
Yeah.
And what are the things, that that bring us together versus keep us separate.
Yeah.
And so those are the topics and the questions I really like to spend a lot of time in, because relationship is ultimately a place where we get really wounded and also where we heal. And
truth.
Yeah.
What's a recent insight that you've received or are continuing to explore that has you either excited or you're just really learning a lot from?
Man, so much. I think initially my relationship, I have to start with my relationship to myself, because that informs my relationship to everything else, in some regard. And so I see it as like my relationship to myself, my relationship to others, and my relationship to the divine or some higher intelligence. And those three kind of buckets ask a lot of me. And in terms of what's, current in terms of my relationship to myself has been a deepening of, I guess like a deeper landing in my center and in myself and in my body and in my truth, of the more inner work that I do on myself and excavating the things that don't serve or aren't in alignment with my truth or my values, and doing that more traditional shadow work, and is letting go of things that don't serve me so that I can come back to a rooted place within myself, so that I can have clarity around my choices, my decisions, my values, where my time goes, and really who I am at my core. And so constantly asking myself deep questions around that, around like how much time can I spend in my essence? And how can I really get to know her and like the truth of who I am without fear around that's telling me who I need to be or how I need to show up or how I need to look. That often comes from culture and society and programming. So true, what's been true for me lately is establishing deeper roots within my own personal ecosystem of like getting stronger and more powerful. And what you referenced at the beginning of this is like, I think you can feel it in my energy and in just like the way I carry myself is just like really remembering who I am.
Yeah.
Like my power.
Yeah.
And letting go of the parts of me that are afraid to be myself, to be fully me.
So in doing that, what have you noticed shift externally, in whether it's a space that you enter, an opportunity that comes your way, or a relationship that removes or welcomes? Like, what are you observing?
When I live in accordance with what feels true for me, like my values, and then I feel like there's a natural cutting away of fat that like just isn't needed. The healthier I get internally, the healthier I get externally. So what I'm witnessing in this year, like I'm the healthiest physically I've ever been, which is amazing. And that is only a byproduct of the inner health that I think is come more online. And I watch the falling. There's a lot of letting go and falling away of things and people and opportunities that aren't in the highest service of what I'm here to do. And so what I'm recognizing is like a deeper commitment and devotion to my path, like my purpose, which is to be a conduit and a channel for love and to help to liberate myself, and through personal liberation, collective liberation. Like that's the path and like the mission that I'm on. And so what that requires of me is like looking at everything that keeps me stuck and limited and caged? Where am I not liberated? Where am I not free? Where am I still living with the shackles of conformity and the parts of me that think I need to be a certain way in order to be acceptable or loved or worthy or successful? And reevaluating my relationship to all of those things. And so what I witness is in seasons, like I'm going through a transition season, a big transition season out of one where it was really just me solo, focused on myself, like really just so focused on my work and my path and my life, so that I can create space to allow new opportunities, new relationships in. So part of it is the letting go of things that don't serve, so that I can say yes to and welcome in stuff that is a match for where I am in my life. So I'm witnessing a big transition there. And that looks like, personal relationships across the board, from friends to work to romance, is creating spaciousness for what wants to come in and what is in the deepest alignment with my truth.
Yeah, I know that you've talked about this. I think if I heard you correctly on your Instagram, like what dating is like or was like, before you met your partner, and curious because I've obviously I'm not in that space. I haven't been there. So what is it like? How hard is it? And any tips, thoughts, observations on how that space can be navigated with a bit more grace and depth?
It's funny, like a lot of people, like they follow my life through my social media, and I really enjoy sharing a lot of my life online. And several months ago, I posted something, just a pretty candid video of me, and you can feel the frustration that I had around dating. I think it was like the title I put on it was like why I'm single. And you could feel like this, I was kind of fed up, with dating a bit. And in the sense that I think a lot of people are, especially people who are looking for deeper connections, it can feel like there's this transactional, element to dating with the swiping culture and online dating culture. And that there's a lack of authenticity that can, feel present in the dating world, or it's just about like, who cares less? Like, don't catch feelings, like, and especially when you're trying to approach relationships from a place of wanting to call in a soul aligned partner. You're like, I'm looking for depth and connection and intimacy and vulnerability and openness. And I feel, at least for me at that time when I posted that I wasn't finding the other side of that, like people who are also looking for that. So that piece of content went pretty viral because I was just fed up. I was like, I'm tired of being the leader or the adult, what I use, the language. It was like, I don't want to mother someone in a relationship. I want somebody who has committed their life to also being on a path of growth and personal mastery and evolution, who takes responsibility and who's committed to doing their half of the, emotional labor is not like the necessary word, like the right word, but like is willing to show up to the relationship and invest in it in the way that I am. And so, I think there was a big part of me, if I'm honest, that had sort of allowed this thread of doubt to seep in of like, maybe I'm not going to find somebody who can meet me in the ways that I desire. And almost started to believe that I had to settle or sacrifice certain things that I was looking for, because I felt like what I was looking for was almost, I started questioning, is it like, am I asking for too much? And I think that is the feminine, right? The feminine is always asking for more. And yet I felt like I needed to put a cap on that and feel like, the unicorn that I was looking for only exists in your dreams, and you should just settle for good enough. And I don't know if anyone else can relate out there, but there's part of you when I've had relationships in the past where I was like, this is good, but it's not like, there are things I need more. I need, whether it's emotional depth or intimacy or whatever it might have been. So yeah, I was pretty frustrated.
Yeah.
And, at that time I kind of let go of the wheel and I was like, I'm not looking anymore. I'm not trying to the last thing I want is any kind of forced relationship. And so I kind of called all that energy back and was like, I'm just going to focus on myself, because I was tired of being disappointed, and I know that people feel that way, where they're kind of just jaded a bit, and that can help, make you close your heart. And I want to stay open-hearted. So I was like, let me just reallocate this energy that I was focused on dating to something else. And just kind of surrender that part of my life, and not focus on it so much. And that was what I was doing at the time, before I called in this recent relationship. But it's funny because when people look at my social media now, one of the first things they see is like this "why am I single" post, and it got tens of thousands of comments of women and men relating, and of being like, I get it, me too. And so I know that there are a lot of people out there that are frustrated and asking this question about like, how do you find it? Does true love really exist? Is that just like a thing in fairy tales? Like, is that like just something we're talking about? Because where are the representations and the reference points for real soul-aligned relationships, conscious partnerships, and reference points for true love?
I got lots of questions.
Yeah.
So I'll ask two, and you can explore whichever one you want first. The comment about femininity and more, right, makes me think about a potential concern that women have of being too much, asking for too much, right?
Yes.
Whereas the men are worried about not being enough. Can I deliver on all the things that she's wanting?
Sure.
So that is a very fascinating dynamic that I think is worthy of double clicking on. The other is what you just said. Oh, I'm drawing a blank on
Reference
it now.
points for true love.
Yeah. Does it exist? Like,
Yeah.
is it something you find, or is it something you build? I'd like to explore both of those. So throwing it to you, however.
Yeah, the too much piece with the feminine. I mean, I think that's a wound a lot of us carry. I know I did. And one of the reasons why I made myself small, in certain arenas, in certain areas. Like I'm a big personality. I have big energy. I was always a leader growing up. I like to excel. I like to be the best. And there was a lot of masculine qualities that allowed me to develop into that leader. And the sensitive side of me, the emotional side of me, the creative side of me was very present when I was younger, but then that kind of got drilled out of me. So if you will, or kind of abandoned. I sort of abandoned those aspects of myself a bit, because it was safer to do that, because it felt a lot like it was too much. I was too expressive, and that can be labeled as you're dramatic, or you're this, or you're that, and as a way of trying to protect myself, you sort of shut those parts of you out. Because you don't want to be judged, or don't want to be rejected, or what have you. And so that started my relationship with being the good girl. And what that looked like in relationship was being very tolerant, very accommodating in relationships, where I wasn't, I'm not going to be needy. I'm not going to be asking. I'm not going to be complaining and asking for more. Just be grateful for what you have, Tolerance was of things that may not work for me, but I learned to have, be very tolerant of that. Sometimes overriding the things that were actually true for me and neglecting myself in that process. So the feminine, I think there's a lot, at least for me, there was a lot of healing to be done around reclaiming my desire, reclaiming my voice, reclaiming the parts of me that that it's okay to want what you want. It's okay that I deserve what I desire. And actually the desires of my heart are not there for me to just be consistently disappointed. They're there to come into fruition. They're there because I deserve them. And they are there as a blueprint to show me what's possible, that my desire is worthy of being expressed and received.
Right.
Versus what I realized is I became the one that continually told myself that it was too much. It wasn't really no
one ever said that.
No one ever else was doing it. It was, I started to be that voice. You're asking for too much. And the healing that has come now through this recent relationship is, when do I put the limit on myself? Like that. And it actually, my partner, the masculine, wants to give, wants to provide, wants to protect. Where do I put the limit on? No, that's too much. Stop. Where do I say, you've gone too far? Like when the moments he's trying to serve me and bring me something and take care of me, and I'm like, no, I can do it for myself. No, I don't need you. You know what I mean? Stop. Is the moment where I have now put a line in the sand and says, this is too much. You're giving too much and I can't receive anymore. And so the healing for me is, how much can I allow myself to receive without blocking my own ability to let it in?
Yeah.
Where do I put the line where I say it's too much, that actually I don't deserve more?
Is there guilt there, or was there guilt there in the request and the acceptance of that person's willingness to meet, quote unquote, the demand or the want or the desire?
I think there was fear.
Okay.
I think there was fear that it wasn't authentic. Maybe fear that you're giving because you want something back from me. You're not doing it simply because you want to give and be of service. That there was a distrust of the masculine that told me that this was a transaction, right? I'm doing this so that you'll give me something in return, versus I just want to give and to be of service, and for you to feel safe, and for you to feel loved, and for you to feel taken care of. And that was so unusual and new for me. It's sad that there was part of me that was like, where's the catch? There's got to be another, like, where's the other shoe going to drop? When's the manipulation going to come in? When is you know what I mean? It can't be safe. Like that was part of me, and my nervous system was like, it's not safe to receive this much. So I think there was fear, and I think possibly some guilt around, there was an unconscious belief that I deserved to suffer. Like that, like things had to be hard. Relationships have to be hard. That love has to be hard. And I'm not saying my relationship's perfect, but there was an anticipation and an expectation that it couldn't just be good, and that I couldn't just receive, and it couldn't be easeful, that I was waiting for something to go wrong, and there was this anticipation in my nervous system, in my energy of like, when is this going to turn? And so, and with the guilt piece, I think when you start to allow it in, then there's a part of like, well, I shouldn't receive this much because other people don't have it. Right. Or because I know that there's other people that are struggling or suffering. And so I don't want to take too much where, it's going to make them feel bad, when love is something that's infinite and there's enough to go around for everyone. Right. And just because I'm receiving doesn't mean you can't.
Right.
So relationships, like I said from the beginning, are the beautiful playground to do all of this rewiring. The wounding that has happened in relationships where I have been manipulated and people have used, I'm going to do this for you, so you do this for me. And it's very transactional, or I'm trying to get you to, be who I want you to be, versus the healing that is coming now, which is like, I'm just like, it's safe to receive.
Yeah.
And those, like, that rewiring is currently happening in my life. And so that's the thing around too much. In regards to
one more question. So what would you say to someone who is in a situation like that, where that programming is active, that belief system is present? What what would you share with that individual of like, is it a question to explore? Is it a small little habit that they can do to shift things? Like what would you, I know it depends on the relationship and all those, there's a lot of dynamics, but do your best to, what would you say to that person?
Notice in your body where you want to close. Like notice where you start to feel unsafe in regards to allowing good in your life. Like does having good, having abundance, having love, having what you desire actually trigger a part of you that feels like you're going to lose it? Like, or that it's going to be taken away from you. And just notice how much goodness you allow yourself to receive that feels safe in your body. How much pleasure you allow or can cultivate and allow yourself to experience before it becomes too much. How much joy, how much, whatever it might be, you know, where is the threshold or the line, the capacity for you where now it feels like I've hit a tipping point and it feels unsafe. Because at that point, that is your wall to love. That is your edge. And for me, I love to play with my edges, you know, and stay in those edges of like, how can I let more love or let more joy or let more pleasure in? Because I deserve good things. And that is the rewiring of like, versus I deserve punishment or I deserve bad or I deserve, you know, so much of this comes down to deservability. A question you can ask, what do you think you deserve? Like, what have you been told about what you deserve? Do you deserve, like, was it always when you were growing up, you were told, oh, you only deserve to go to the party when you like clean your room? Or do you deserve to live? What were the things that were told to you, the rules about what you deserve? And do you only deserve good things when you act a certain way? Or are you just worthy just because? Because it's in the moments where you don't feel like you have performed or acted in accordance with like, I don't deserve good because I'm not good, where you're holding shame, where you're holding things that you don't think deserve good, that you won't allow to be seen.
Yeah.
Those are the parts of yourself that you're going to hide in relationship. Those are the parts of yourself that you're going to keep in the corner. And intimacy, love is what sees through all of that. Intimacy is like, I'm going to see the parts of you that you don't want me to see, that you think are unlovable, that you don't think are worthy, that you think are dirty, that you think are shameful, that you have stories around that say, if you knew this about me, you wouldn't love me anymore. Right. And so starting it with a question around, what do you think you deserve? Because you will call in and get mirror reflections of that in your life. Like your external world will show you what you believe you deserve based on your internal dialogue around that.
For someone who potentially is interpreting what you're saying as only seeking out pleasureful things, what would you say to that when you open yourself up to the receiving ship of I'm receiving it and it feels really good and wanting more of those things? Does that open up the sensitivity also to pain, to have both sides? Or do you view pain differently because you're now receiving more of the feel good type moments? Have you thought about that or noticed anything there?
Yeah, I think pain is one of my greatest teachers. It is an inevitable part of life. And because pain was such pain initiated me into so much of my learning and growth, I got attached to it. Like it became part of my identity that I have to suffer in order to grow. I have to be in pain and I have to hit rock bottom in order to have this expansion. And what I've learned is like, you can grow multiple ways. You can grow like pain can force you to grow, and love. Like there are multiple avenues to growth and healing. And, but so in one way I am opening to more joy and love and pleasure intentionally.
Yes.
Because it's been something I have felt was, lacking in certain ways. I had normalized pain as like my default. So this feels, although it feels good, it feels uncomfortable.
True.
Although it feels good, it feels scary to my nervous system because it's new and it's unfamiliar. And therefore my brain has identified that as unsafe. What feels safe is pain. What feels safe is challenge. What feels safe is adversity, even though it doesn't feel good. And so there is a reorganization and a rewiring around that. And also, in order to receive more of those things, I have to be willing to look at the most painful things in my life that prevent me from accessing joy and love and abundance. And so you don't get one without the other. Like they are two sides of a coin. I had just been only looking at one side of a coin for a really long time, which was the pain side. And for anyone out there who's doing this work, like you probably recognize that sometimes pleasure and joy and love can feel very uncomfortable.
Sure.
If that hasn't been something that you have a lot of familiarity with. And not that I didn't have love in my life.
100%.
But I had come to anticipate and expect loss and tragedy and the things I didn't want to happen.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize how much I was blocking my own like being able to receive good because I was just expecting bad all of the time.
Yeah. And what's cool scientifically is that pleasure and pain are located in the same part of the brain. You know, and that's why some people can have a really painful experience, but find really a lot of pleasure in it.
Sure.
And something that's very pleasurable to other people can be really painful. And so it's they both enhance each other. And I think both are required.
You know, the deepest pain now for me is disconnection. Disconnection from myself, disconnection from my truth, disconnection from my expression of that truth.
Right.
And so the deepest pains that I experience now is when I'm not allowing myself to be present, to be seen, to be all that I am, even if it's messy, even if it's unsure, even, you know, so that's one of the relationship agreements that we have in our relationship is that all of us is welcome, including the parts of us that are sure and clear and turned on and excited, and the parts of us that are unsure, and the parts of us that are struggling, and the parts of us that need tenderness and care and that have wounds. And so it's about for me, it's about being in relationship with all of those parts of myself and realizing that my pain is I can receive so much from pain. The deepest pain now is just like not being myself, not being true to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ingrained in pain also, I think is pleasure. Like the whole point of pain is to move you to pleasure. Stop this, go back. You know, and so
it's a signal.
It's a signal.
Totally.
And so the story around the signal is what changes the direction once you have the signal, right? Which it sounds like you're rewiring, which is so cool.
It's information of like, this isn't working.
Yes.
Something's off here.
Right.
So let's look at that.
Right.
And adjust.
Yes.
Or move in a different direction or try something different because the way that this is what you're doing here is creating pain. Right. And so can I just pay attention to the things that hurt versus what I think we're culturally programmed to do, which is run away from the things that hurt. What I like my frame is, no, the things that hurt is the thing that's asking for your attention.
Right.
So turn towards it versus turning away from it. And when you go into it, that is the process of alchemy of like transforming pain into pleasure.
Yeah.
And that only comes from having courage to go inward versus running away.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question.
Okay.
Can you find it? Or is it something you find? And I'm putting like this or that. So if it's not that for you, then obviously frame it however you need to. But is it something you find? Is it something you build? True love. Does it exist?
Yes. Yes, it exists. It exists. I think for me, it's been more of a remembrance and a recognition of something that's always been there. I feel like true love is the most ancient force, like the most powerful force that exists. And I think it is where we all come from. It's what we're all like, it's within us. And yet part of the human experience is forgetting that. Is forgetting who we are so that we can remember and go through these trials and this adversity to learn and to grow. And part of the healing and the growing is actually, like you said recently, it's like, it's not about adding more. It's actually about subtracting. It's about remembering. It's actually about letting go of all of the things that keep us disconnected from love so that we can, like, under all the layers, what exists beneath it, which is true love, divine love, unconditional love. And we've just added all of our conditions and our layers on top of it. Right. And so for me, it's been a rediscovery almost, of the love that's within me first, because I thought love was something I could lose. I thought love was outside of me. I thought love was in a person. I thought love was in a relationship that I had. And that if that relationship ended, I lost love. I learned that because most of my family has passed away. And so I had a story that developed that I lose the people that I love, that I lose love. And so I was afraid of love. In a lot of ways, I was afraid to love big. I was afraid to fully open my heart because I didn't want the pain of quote unquote losing it. And actually a teacher of mine really helped to reorient me around this and showed me that basically the love I thought that love exists always. It's not something that I can find or lose. It's not something that exists outside of me. That actually that person is just a mere reflection of the love that exists within me. So they are just holding up a mirror and allowing me to access love that is within myself. They are the conduit for me to remember love that is now flowing through me because I have now they've allowed me to access that, but it's always there. And that's why some people will come into your life and reignite something in you or bring something forward. But it wasn't what I did was I externalized it. I thought it was in them, where really it was happening. Everything is happening in me. Everything is happening inside of me. My relationship to everything is based on my perception. And so when I started to reorient around the fact that love is the essential fact of life, like it is like where I come from, who I am, what I'm made of, that is my essence. Like I had to come into that awareness. That was like the foundational understanding. And then it was really about then what is anything that stands in the way of love, prevents me from accessing that. I think it's Rumi that has a quote. It's like, do not seek for love, but seek to remove anything that stands in the way of love, essentially. So that has been kind of my, the foundational, way that I move through life is what prevents me and where are my limits? Where are my walls to love? Where I'm like, nope, that's too much. Now I can't love you. Now I can't love myself. I've now gone too far, or I've messed up too much, or I've, where now I'm like, nope, now I'm unlovable. Or now you've you've done something to me where
when
I can't
you
love
catch
you anymore.
those moments, are those visceral moments? Are those things that you're feeling in your body? Is that reflection? Is that, what is the cue that may alert you to a boundary crossed, an edge that you're bumping up against that's blocking you from that love? Like, what are your typical cues that others can, in listening to you, be like, oh yeah, I felt that before, or like, oh, that's something to be mindful of, or everyone's different, but like, what is for you? What has that been like?
Yeah, I think boundaries are interesting because when a boundaries just they're not walls to love, they're actually creating doors to let love in.
Yes.
Right. And when I didn't have boundaries in my life, there was there's like so much happening that I can't orient to it. I can't like experience it all because it's overwhelming. It's flooding for the system. So like, if I'm just like open to, I love everyone, but like, does everyone deserve my time, like, and attention? And this, like, like love is true. I love life. I love everyone. And I don't want to be intimately engaged with everyone either. So there's like boundaries and levels to closeness and intimacy. And also when a boundary is crossed, for me, it's very visceral. It's very much I feel the shutting down for me of shoulders. I start to close. I start to like sink into myself a little bit. And I want to go quiet. I want to protect myself. And we all have our different ways of protecting ourselves. For me, sometimes it goes like I just kind of go into a freeze a little bit when I no longer feel safe. And safety and love are like sisters. Yeah, sisters. Like love that love is safe. And so I had to also reorient around that. A lot of what I thought love wasn't really love. So I had to relearn like, what is love? And sometimes when we don't know what love is, at times in my life, I was like, what is love then? It's like, well, at least do no harm. So where am I harming someone else or myself? Where am I transgressing myself? Where am I punishing myself? That's where there's a lack of love. Where am I shaming myself? Now there's a lack of love. Where am I judging someone else? Now there's a lack of love. And so if I don't necessarily know what love is, how can I can at least go to orient to like, do no harm. Yeah. Where am I harming?
And the closest thing to what you think it is. Yeah.
And so I got to look at that, of like, where in my life am I abusing myself? Where am I harming myself? Where am I not taking care of myself? Where am I not loving myself in terms of what I put in my body, or how much sleep I get at night, or who I'm surrounding myself with, or the thoughts that I think, or the areas in my life where I'm like, nope, you don't now, like, you've messed up too much. You've made too many mistakes. Like, you don't deserve any, like a beautiful love story anymore because you failed in these ways, right? Where I've disqualified myself or someone else because of certain actions or behaviors, and I just want to be just like clear. There's like unconditional love, divine love, which I believe we all come from. And then yet relationships are conditional, right? Like, there are conditions for me to be in relationship with you at an intimate level, boundaries, standards, shared values. And that doesn't mean, I tolerate every, poor behavior or poor treatment. And yet I can love you as a sister or a brother and see that you might be, your choices and your behavior might be coming from a lack of love for you. When I look out at the world and I see, criminals or people or like whatever, it's like, I think people who are addicted, people who are struggling. Gabriel Mate, who's a really amazing trauma expert, he talks about like when we look at addiction, we're not asking why the addiction, we're asking like why the pain or why the like there's a lack of love. Like we don't go to these extreme like abusive tendencies, whether it's towards self or other people, because we're connected to love. It's because we're disconnected. So how can we start to, with ourselves first, infuse our choices with love? What would love do is a question I ask myself a lot in my relationship and with myself.
Yeah.
What would love do? And if I don't know the answer, it wouldn't create harm.
Yeah.
Right.
What I hear there is that your do not harm is a piece of the definition that you would say love is, right, for you. And I think there's a lot of people out there that may have different definitions of love. Some are, let's call it more closer to spirit, and then more practical. I think, so in my mind, I'm saying like, okay, what are your thoughts on tough, quote unquote, tough love, you know, and like, what is that? And if people are operating under different definitions of love, I think the next logical step would be to then express what your definition is. Is that going to allow you to have the things that you say you want? And is the person that you're wanting to experience that love with aware of that? Right. And are you willing to co-create in that now established definition?
Exactly.
Right.
Because if you don't have a shared understanding of what it is that when I say I love you, what does that mean to me?
Correct.
And when you tell me you love me, what does that mean to you?
Yes.
If we don't have a working definition that we both agree on, then I can think I'm loving you. And you might not be
love is received. Yeah.
But you aren't receiving it as love.
Right.
At all.
Correct.
Right. And so this is, I think, one of the things we get into talking about love languages and how people receive love and that kind of thing. And even learning how do you like to give love, and how do you express love in the world, and like also how do you receive it, right? And what does that mean to you? But especially on a relationship level, you have to have a working understanding or agreed upon kind of definition to some degree. And for me, it's love is additive. How do I add to your cup? How do I allow you through my presence to be more connected to yourself in this moment? Even if that means that it's like, that's not necessarily what I need or what I want, but like, how does my love and my presence allow you to be more fully yourself? And
yes,
that to me is what love is. It is an expression of the divine in you. And so you being the most yourself, you being seen for who you are, you being accepted for who you are, you being celebrated for who you are, allows you to embrace yourself and to love yourself, and to, in that point, like, be more connected to this moment and be more connected to life and be more connected potentially to me.
Yeah.
So with intimacy, intimacy is like, I like to use the words like, into me you see. And that can also be like, there's so many things that come up when you let someone see you, like, and when you've been used to wearing a lot of masks of who do I need to be in order to be loved? Who do I need to be? Right. And then love says, you only need to be yourself. That's what true love says.
Right.
You don't need to be anyone else. You don't need to do, you don't need to wear any masks. I believe true love says and invites you to be you, and celebrates that expression.
Do you think, because in me right now, what I feel coming up is like, if I feel fully loved, then I feel free to explore. And in that exploration is evolution and growth. And so I deduce it to, in that space where love exists, I can now play and in the play, reach, experience, develop things. And so growth is also attached to love, which I think is where the tough love comes in. Because when I hear, you are perfect, or you are just the way that you are amazing. I don't want people to think that there's nothing that they have to do, because then I also think that would be boring too. You're like, oh, well, I'm overweight, I'm broke, and I blank, 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 blank. That's fine. I don't know. Is it? Is it not? If you're fully being seen, I think then now unlocks start to happen where your genius can begin to flow out, and through that, growth happens. What do you think?
Yeah. I would like if someone's overweight or broke or whatever,
sure.
like what's the most loving thing I can do for that person?
Yeah.
Right. Or like, how can I love them best? And I think the question is like, ask them, what do you want to do about that? Versus trying to fix it for them or think I know what they need, is like invite them into curiosity of like, do you like that? Is that something you want to change? Because not everybody wants to change and grow. I've had to learn that you know what I mean? I am all about growth and change. And I wanted every partner I've ever been with to love growth and change and evolution the same way I do. And I had to one of the things I had to accept is not everyone wants to grow at the pace I want to grow at. Not everyone wants to, and that's why those relationships aren't for me.
Sure.
But part of it, I've had to release what I thought was love, which is I think loving you is fixing you. I think loving you is saving you from your own dysfunction or from your own choices. I realized that's not love, actually. Love is inviting that person into, there's a possibility of a different life if you want it, and I'll be there to support you, and I'll be there to give advice and feedback and encouragement or whatever is needed. But sometimes, am I pushing my agenda onto you? And is that, and even though that might support your life in a lot of ways, is that what you want and what you desire? So what I've kind of come to, I'm all about tough love. Welcome it. I welcome feedback. I welcome you to point out my blind spots. Like, and that's something in my relationships and with my friends, I give permission to and ask for. And, I am also the queen of being able to see kind of steps down the road and being like, if you just do X, Y, and Z, you can improve your life in so many ways, you know? And realizing that, some people not everybody's like me. Yeah. Not everybody wants what I want. Right. And part of loving them is loving them where they're at. And that doesn't mean it's like, you don't need to change or don't need to do anything differently, but I'm not going to withhold my love because you're choosing not to grow. And that's what I did in a lot of past relationships. I would withhold my love because you're not acting the way I want you to act. But it's sort of that Mel Robbins let them theory of like, let people be who they are. Let people make their choices. I can be there as a support and give advice and give feedback when they ask for it, if they want it. I don't have to force my agenda and tell them how they need to be. And how does that reinforce telling them that they're not good as they are? And then let me decide if I want to be in a relationship with that. Yeah. Let me decide if that works for me. You know what I mean?
Would you say that love is a space and or an invitation?
What do you mean by space?
A space is like a reality in which both of us live, that we're currently occupying, in which we're allowing each other to be seen, heard, understood, appreciated, acknowledged, fully present with. And that is a space that we can enter, whether we allow it or it's already there, we just tap into it. But it's an environment that we enter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
that's what I mean by space.
Like the field. It's like almost like this field of love that exists.
Frequency.
Yeah. That we can tune into.
Yes.
For sure.
Okay.
And I also think it's an activation and a call forward and an invitation.
Yeah.
I think love calls you.
Right.
Like love is that invitation to come into that space too. It's calling to you, and it is the space that exists at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's what the words were coming up. I was like, yeah, that sounds to me like if you're in the space, you can extend the invitation to come in, or you could be out of the space and receive an invitation to come in, whether it's from somebody or a download or something just pulling you in. But those two components, maybe there's more, but definitely those two.
And I think our presence becomes the invitation for people. Your presence is so powerful. And I think a lot of us have gotten disconnected from that. Like our presence is our power. And when you start to cultivate your presence in a way that invites people into more of themselves, into authenticity, into love, into that present moment, that is like your greatest gift to the world, your medicine, your dharma, that is when you are being used as an instrument for the divine. Like you're playing your song that's uniquely yours because your presence is unique. It's like this idea, if we're all God, it's like, I'm just localized divinity and so are you. And it's just like, who can remember, who can wake up, and who can acknowledge that my presence is my greatest gift. And when I am myself, and when I am in a place of regulated, loving presence, that creates safety for other people to feel like it's safe to be myself. It's safe to open my heart. It's safe to receive love. It's safe to give love. It's safe to be loved. And that presence is the invitation. Because I don't know about you, but like, how many relationships are we in that bring us deep, true love that other person's presence doesn't like
100%
invite us into more opening and more depth?
Yeah. And I also think like how I think about it is like, James disappears when I show up as the space and the invitation. Like I'm seeing through my eyes, I'm feeling my body, but I'm also not aware of those things because I'm so focused on who I'm communicating and connecting with, that I think in that presence is the invitation. And then once the person says yes, then they also remove themselves, and now everyone's cohesively in the moment, and maybe there's parts of you that you bring into it, but it's less, I don't focus on myself when I'm fully there.
Right.
Right. And I think that's so cool that if you could have that, more of that, you got to start with love, because if you don't, then you're going to seek it from somebody else. Then you're not going to be in the moment because you're going to be reading the other person, hoping that they give you what you think you need.
Something.
Exactly. Transactional. But if it's truly service-based, then that is the purest invitation that one can receive. And then by them saying yes, you're by default unlocking. And you may not even have to say anything. There have been so many moments in a coaching environment where I have not said anything. It's been a look.
Your presence is the permission slip for people.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have to say anything, but because of the quality of your presence, it gives someone a permission to release or like activate something that has been dormant inside of them.
Right.
And like earlier I said, I believe love is who we are, but like I want to just clarify, like there's what I consider my spiritual essence, and then my human body, like human ego. Yeah. Like there's like the personality, Tori, like you're like, I'm not really there. That's like the James, the personality, the ego. And I think we're overly identified with that. Yes. We think that's who we are. And the remembering is that I'm also, and more, what is more true and more permanent is like this spiritual essence that is the infinite that will go on. It's like the mortal body, the primal body thinks it's finite, thinks it's going to die, and thinks it needs to protect itself in order to survive. That's part of me. And my soul is infinite and it's just my spiritual essence is love. And so these two things often feel like they're in conflict with each other. Like that is the human experience, right? And so how can I create a space within myself for love to come through me? Yeah. It's not that my ego is love. My ego is not love. Actually, my ego is separation. My ego is fear. My ego is bound in a lot of limitation. Mm-hmm. But how can I connect to the truest part of me? And when I can create a space, and in spiritual circles, you'll hear that call a channel, when I can in the shamans will call it becoming a hollow bone, right? So that love can flow through without anything in the way. Yeah. And when you can intentionally say, I'm going to create and step into this coaching container, or step into this work environment, or step into this relation or this conversation with my spouse or my partner in this moment, and I am going to just intentionally move out of the way so that love can come through. What would love do in this moment? And let my presence be that, versus letting my ego get kind of entangled. And that's the dance. I mean, that's the human experience. And that's what we're learning to get more and more masterful over, and how to regulate in spaces like that where the ego gets scared, where it doesn't feel safe and it needs to withhold or needs to protect itself. And I think that is what relationship brings forward for all of us, is an opportunity and an invitation to remember our divinity and to remember the love that's within all of us and that naturally flows through when things don't obstruct it. Beliefs, unhealed trauma, that's what obstructs the channel. That's what blocks it. And so the more that we can release those blockages, those belief systems, that unhealed trauma, that unprocessed pain from the body, from the nervous system, from the psyche, more spaciousness gets created and more can flow through. And you can look at that from a physiological perspective, from an energetic perspective, from a spiritual perspective, and from a psychological perspective as well. And what I say is those are just all the things that are in the way of love. And we all have it. We all have it. And so the work is around, how can I release the stuff that stands in the way?
Yeah. And there's ways, I think, to help cultivate that. And some are mental, some are physical, some are spiritual. But to name a few free ones that are accessible to everybody, one is nature. I think more time in nature allows, if they're paying attention, allows people to see the collaboration that nature is, from trees that pollinate one another, to the creek that provides water to the growing plants, to, the fruit that blooms for the monkeys, that the flies decompose. Like it's all connected, right? So I think nature is one of those. Journaling is another, because I think writing is, Tim Ferriss, I think, said this, writing is thinking visually. A lot of invisibleness here, right? So until it's out, it's not concrete. And that concreteness gives more clarity. And that clarity allows you to operate with more precision. So journaling for sure. Meditation, another. Exercise, running, yoga, any sort of movement can get you out of the mind into the body, and therefore get the mind focused on something so new insights can come in. Are there any ones that you experience that you find have been helpful for you there?
I have some foundational ones that are pretty essential to me. Movement is one. Stillness is one. So meditation of some kind, or just mindfulness of just noticing the stories and the thoughts. Nature, absolutely. Food. So I have some foundational ones. Yeah. Food and sleep. These are what helps me to sustain life. Right. What gives me life and helps to sustain life, so that love can exist. So life can exist. And if, and I can't change something I'm unaware of. Right. So if the goal is to release the stuff that's blocking love, then I have to be aware of what's blocking it. Right. And so look at where's the pain in your life. Right. Is it in? So I look at life from a very holistic perspective and all these different what I call the energetic bodies. So the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, the spiritual body, the financial body, the social body, and your career or purpose of whatever kind. And those aren't mutually like exclusive, like purpose and career don't have to go to hand in hand. But where is their pain? Where is their friction? Where is their tension? Where is their limitation? Gets to be where I put my focus. But in terms of what helps me to create an environment and a space within myself where love is accessible, it's about loving myself. How do I take care of myself? How do I treat myself with respect and honor, given that this is the physical vessel that I have? And without health and vitality, I have nothing to give. Like if I'm energy poor
can't hold
and depleted, I can't, like, I need to receive so that I can give. And what I see so much with high performers and entrepreneurs is they're giving from a depleted, energy poor state, because they're so conditioned to be a giver and to show up and to lead, but they have not refueled, they have not nourished, and they are neglecting themselves at the expense of themselves in order to give to everyone else. We see this with a lot of mothers. We see this with high performance leaders. They're like, let me take care of my staff. Let me take care of my team. Let me take care and I'll go last. I'm put last. What I think real leaders have learned is that, like, I can't give what I don't have. So I can't give what I haven't received. And am I giving to myself? Am I filling my cup? Am I giving from an energy poor place or an energy rich place? And if you look at like Stephen Hawking's map of consciousness, which I use a lot too, it actually shows like vibrational frequencies of like energy poor versus energy rich emotional states too. So looking at where you're holding shame and guilt, which are the lowest on the vibrational, like that's where you're blocked. Where are you holding shame and guilt? And then apathy. And then, you know, like as you climb up that scale, we cross out of survival and into neutrality and into like the green, what I would call the green zone. You're in the red or in the green. There's like a yellow in between of neutrality. So where you're in red is limitation, scarcity, survival, shame, guilt, anger, resentment, bitterness, all of that. And can I move to a higher state emotion, a higher frequency emotion of even neutrality? Can I come to a place of neutrality and not necessarily swing to the other side of the pendulum so far? But I use that for myself a lot when I'm feeling icky, tight, constrained. I don't want to give love. I'm pissed off. I want to withhold. I want to, you know, you can Google this. I find where am I at on that map? And I see just like, what's the step above that can create a little bit more spaciousness, a little bit more openness. And maybe the step above where you are is like, you go from like guilt to anger, and anger might be you might think, oh, I don't want to be angry, but actually that's a step up, and getting in touch with that can help you elevate to the next state, you know? And also just like, where can I find gratitude? Gratitude is a very green emotional state in terms of, you know, helping you to tap into possibility and potential. And I think it's just as a culture, we're very fixated on what's going wrong, what we don't have, lack, scarcity, like what needs to be fixed. So often we go into therapy and all we talk about is what's wrong and what needs to be fixed. I want to talk about what's right. What's going well? What is the good? Let's talk about what we're grateful for. Let's talk about how you showed up well this week. Let's fuel that fire. Let's put gasoline on that fire and amplify that, because there's goodness within all of us. And when we start to verbalize and give language to and edify those things, the light gets brighter, right? And we see more to be grateful for, and we start to cultivate more reasons to be excited, and more possibility exists. And so sometimes it's just getting out of our own way of like our stuckness of like, what's not, what needs to be fixed, what's going wrong, even especially in our relationships. That's where we can get stuck. It's like, you need to fix this, or you're wrong about this. And we see it from like this very siloed perspective. And I think, love, spirit, truth, whatever, often has us zoom out and see things from a much broader perspective.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And, then allows us to see more of that picture. So there's lots of things I would tell people, but it's like, when you're really focused on what's bringing you pain, whether it's in your relationship or your life or your health or whatever, it's what is this actually trying to show me? What is this information trying to teach me about what's working or what's not? And how can I zoom out to see a broader perspective? Because so often we're just like focused on the thing that's not working versus like, what's good about this situation? How is this serving me? And if there's not, why am I still here?
Right.
Why am I still doing this?
Right.
That can be the catalyst for the change that you need to make right there. You know,
True.
If you can't find anything good about the situation, then let's make some changes, you know?
Yeah. I think about my kids and I think about, their favorite question, why? And you'll read books, whether it's, personal development books or whatnot, that say, be more childlike. And I think how I interpret that is be more curious, and I think to your point, like, what is this pain? What message does this pain have? Or even just asking why more. That could be asking it one more time in a conversation. Why'd you say that like that? Or what makes you choose those words, as opposed to those words? More curiosity invites more truth, I think, or more data to sift through where to press. That if we think we know it all, or we think we already, that conversation is going to go like this, this, and this, we shut down possibility. And so to kind of place in with love, I think curiosity is a good place to start. If love feels too far, just get curious and see where that goes.
Totally. And just even add is like, I think if love feels hard to define for you or like to access for you, maybe swap that out for truth. Like, I think truth and love are synonymous. And so maybe love feels hard to access, but what is true? What is true? What is the truth that wants to be expressed that I am not allowing myself to express?
Yeah.
And this is where tough love comes in, because sometimes people need to hear a truth that they're not wanting to hear. Right. In my closest relationships, we have created relationships in where truth is our North Star. That is the thing that drives us, truth and love. And so the most loving thing I can do is tell you the truth. And where I'm withholding the truth from you is where I'm now in deception and illusion, and now I'm cut off from love. So where I'm withholding my truth, where I'm lying, or I'm pretending, or I'm acting like something's okay when it's not, now we've fallen out of love. We've fallen out of truth. And so sometimes tough love is really just saying the hard thing that needs to be said so that we can come into truth and so that love can sustain itself. And the moment that we're now lying or pretending or acting as if something's okay when it's not, is where we start to cut, like the fractures start to come in, I think. And so, yeah, my relationships, the closest relationships in my life require a place where that's allowed, where we're allowed to say the thing that might be very disruptive and hard to hear, but it's the most loving thing I can do is to tell you the truth. And, that is what I'm devoted to in my life and in my work, is a deep devotion to truth and therefore a deep devotion to love. And how can I let my life be a reflection of those things? And so my life will forever be, the work that I get to do is forever is like looking at all the places where I'm not in truth and in integrity with myself. And then how does that get shown in the world? And so there's a lot of reflection that goes into that.
Well, thank you for your commitment to understanding love and truth and these relational aspects that enrich our life. Thank you for creating a space on your podcast where you invite other individuals like yourself to explore these edges. Thank you for the hard truths that you're continuously willing to confront. I think you get better because of that, but everyone else that you interact with also has the opportunity to get better too. So thank you. And thank you for spending time with me today and exploring a hard topic to talk about, because it can be so subjective, but to find some commonalities that regardless of where you're at in your relational journey, you could still come back to these principles that may be timeless, but are very, very concrete in building a flourishing relationship to self and to other. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for creating the space I'd love to come through. So
cool.
I appreciate you for having me on.
Yeah.
Always.
So for those of you listening, go check out Tori's podcast. We'll link that in the show notes. And if you feel called to join her on some of her great, experiences that she creates and her programs, definitely go tune into that. Someone who's very rich in integrity and someone who really values the growth of everything that she does. She does that daily. So thank you guys. Go out there, be your own 1%, lead with love, lead with curiosity, lead with truth, and watch the magic unfold. Peace.